There was a young preacher who was starting his first church, and his first sermon was from the scripture we read today. And he came out and he started to tell the scripture, and he said, you know, Jesus fed 5 men with 2,000 loaves and 5 fish. And the guy in the audience said, because he couldn't stand it. He liked to pick on and intimidate preachers anyway. He said, that ain't nothing. I can do that. I can feed 5 people with 2,000 loaves and 2,000 fish. And he said, he couldn't go on. The pastor was so flustered that he couldn't even continue. So he said a few words and ended the service. Well, the next week he came back. And he wanted to show him that he could preach that sermon. So he got up and he was determined to get it right this time. And he said, Jesus fed the 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He said, can you do that? And the man said, I can do that easy. He said, how are you going to do that? He said, with all that bread and fish left over from last week. You know, all the miracles that Jesus performed are special, aren't they? They tell a story, they point us to something, and they give us hope, don't they? They're all miraculous because they're miracles, right? But you know, there's something special about this particular story. Do you know it's the only one that's included in all 4 Gospels? It's the only miracle that's recorded in all 4. So there must be something kind of special about it, wouldn't you think? Maybe because it involves food. We all like food, right? Anybody not like food? I like food. You like food. We like food. We like to be fed, right? And maybe it has something to do with that. What's the old saying? Feed them and they will come, right? Feed them and they will come. But you know, as much as we like food, how many of you have actually ever been hungry? You ever been hangry? That's what we call it at our house. We're hangry. We start getting edgy because we haven't eaten. But how many of you have ever been hungry? You ever come home and say, I've worked after a hard day's work, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. You ever heard that said? Maybe you heard your parents say, yeah. You couldn't actually eat a horse, but you feel that way, right? You feel like I haven't eaten since 12 o'clock. Now here it is, 6 o'clock, and I'm ready to eat. But you know, as much as we're hungry, I don't really know that we truly value what it really feels like to be hungry. You know, there are countries, there are places in the world that people don't eat for 2 or 3 days. And that's their norm. That's their norm. Did you know that over 3 million children die each year from malnutrition? 3 million. Think about that. 3 million. That means 3 million moms watch their children starve to death. That's hard, isn't it? But that's what it's like to really be hungry. And so we say we're hungry, but we're not really hungry. We live in a country that we're so blessed that I don't think anybody, everybody have breakfast that wanted it? Yeah, I did too. And I think we're blessed. We don't miss a whole lot of meals, do we? But this group here that we're going to be talking about today in this story is hungry. They're kind of like you're hangry, right? Where the story tells us that Jesus had gone across the Sea of Galilee and he was followed by a large number of people, right? And he looks up and he sees these people and he turns to and he notices it's probably about 6 o'clock at night if you read Matthew's version of it, kind of dusk, and he turns to Philip and what does he say? He says, where are we going to get food to feed these people? Now, if I was Philip, I would kind of feel like Tonto when him and the Lone Ranger were surrounded by several thousand Indians, and the Lone Ranger said, what are we going to do? And he said, what do you mean we, Kimosabe? I know Philip didn't have food for those people in his pocket, did he? And I'm sure he didn't have an answer, did he? But, you know, he's trying to come up with an answer, and he's trying to find a way out. So what does he pulls out his science calculator, and he's looking out there, and he says, it's going to take 8 months worth of pay just to buy some food. And that's not even going to be enough. That wouldn't even be enough. It's just like you get a little bit. And even if he did have the money, where was he going to buy food? There's no Walmart there. There ain't no Publix or Kroger or Food Line out there. There's no McDonald's where you could go get some kid meals from. There's nowhere to buy it. But Jesus didn't ask him because he wanted to know where they were going to get the food, did he? He asked him because it was a test. You know, oftentimes when Jesus asks you to do something, it's a test. Do you think he gave the right answer? No. You see, it wasn't about having enough food, it was about having enough faith. You know, Philip had already seen him do all these miracles, seen him heal the lame and turn the water into wine. All those miracles had happened, and that's part of the reason all these people were following Jesus, because they had seen so many miraculous signs. So he had seen them do all these miracles, yet, you know, he's thinking in earthly terms, isn't he? He goes, well, you know, 8 months pay, we don't have 8 months pay, there's no Walmart, I don't know what we're going to do. You know, he's thinking earthly. But what's Jesus referring to? He's referring to that power that comes from above, right? That God can take what? A little bit and make it enough. Right? When you think you don't have enough, you have more than enough. Okay? We learned that, and it tells us in the scripture that it was indeed what? A test, right? He had asked Philip this for a test. And Philip failed. Philip failed, he gets an F. He doesn't get to retake the test, it's over. But then comes Andrew, right? Andrew's in there, and Andrew brings this boy with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He said, he brings the boy to Jesus, and he says, I got this. I got these 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And I think you need to understand what those loaves look like. It looked like, not loaves like we think of loaves, not like a loaf of bread, but it was more like a small pancake. Not a big pancake. You ever made little pancakes for your kids or your grandkids? You know, you make these little ones that are just their size. So it looked like 5 of those. And 2 fish. And the way that fish translates is more something like a sardine. So a small fish. So he had 2 small fishes and 5 small loaves. And it would certainly seem that he had what? Definitely did not have enough. He didn't have enough, right? There's 5,000, it says 5,000 men there. And you need to know that's just men. They didn't count women and children. That's just 5,000 men were there. By a conservative estimate that there was probably at least 20,000 people there. If you were to estimate how many women and how many children were there with the men. That's a lot of folks. That's more than most basketball arenas will hold. Some small school football stadiums will hold that. But that's a lot of people, right? Now, I'm not sure we could hold 20 here, but we could try. So if you bring them, I'll preach. They might have to knock out a wall or two. But the fact of the matter is, he had a lot of folks. Even if let's just go 5,000. Okay, we'll just agree 5,000 is written. We'll just go with 5,000. That's 5 loaves divided by 5. That's not even a bite apiece, is it? It's definitely not enough to feed them, is it? But what we need to concentrate on, what we need to see from this, what we need to learn from this is the little boy brought what he had. He didn't say, well, I don't have enough bread or enough fish to feed anybody or even feed myself. It's more like a snack pack, really. I mean, if you think about it, it's one of their snack packs from Captain D's, a couple of fish and some bread, that's all. But that's all he had was a snack pack, and he brought it, but he gave it to him. He said, you know, take it. This is what I got. Do whatever you can do. And what did Jesus do? He took the not enough and he turned it into what? More than enough. That's right. How often does Jesus ask us to do something and we feel inadequate? Right? I don't have enough. I don't have enough ability to go speak in front of people. I don't have the ability to go witness to somebody. I don't have enough courage to do this, that, or the other. How many excuses can we come up with where we say, I'd love to do that, God, but I don't have enough to do it with? Right? I don't have enough to step forward and do what you've asked me to do. That's a great excuse, isn't it? Now let me ask you this. If your kids, if you ask them to do something and they say, I don't got enough. I need you to take out the trash. I ain't got enough energy for that. Do you think you'd find that energy? I know I did. Yeah. Because all of a sudden that not enough can become more than enough energy, can it? Yeah, it can. I'll take all the trash out in the whole house. I don't care. I'm good. But the truth of the matter is that if we look at ourselves and we look that God asks us to do things almost on a daily basis, if we're in tune to Him, if we're praying to Him and listening to Him, He'll ask us to do things. And it may be a small thing, it may be a big thing. But the question that you need to answer is, am I bringing what I got? Am I making my fish and my loaves available that God can take that and that not enough and He can turn it into more than enough? Right? Steve said this morning, he didn't have it. He didn't have enough, but he made it available, and God made it more than enough. And so He blessed us today. That's a blessing. We appreciate it. See, God took that not enough and made it more than enough. Right? When we're weak, He is what? Strong. That's right. When we feel like we don't belong, He embraces us and says, you're mine. Right? You're mine. You see, in any situation that we enter into, God can take your not enough and make it more than enough if you make yourself available enough. So oftentimes we hide, don't we? Any hiders in here? You don't have to raise your hands in confession. I just want you to think. Remember, I just give you things to think about. But I think a lot of times at some point in our life, maybe not now, maybe not today, maybe we've hidden from things. We feel God tugging our hearts and, I want you to go and do this, or I want you to go and do that. And we come up with a bunch of excuses why we can't, and we end up not doing anything, right? You just end up, basically what you're saying is no. You're saying no to God. Let that sink in for a minute. You're saying no to God. No. Is that the right answer? Is that ever the right answer? No. Hey, there you go. You got no. It's not. It's it. Years ago when I was a youth minister, and they asked me to do a camp. And they asked me to do a camp for 8th graders, which is always the biggest camp of the year. And there was 88 kids there. They had signed up, 88. And so as the director, my job was to get enough staff to cover that, which was 12. We needed 12 counselors because of the way the cabins were split up. So I really didn't know anybody because I had never done this before, but they gave me a list of names, each people you might call, and they might be able to do it, because you're really asking somebody to give up a week's vacation and come and be a counselor. So I called everybody on the list, and I asked some of the other people, do you know anybody else that I might call? I'd call one counselor, and they say, I can't, but maybe George can do it, and they give me his number. So I called, and I spent about a week or so doing that. And I ended up with about, either 6 or 7 counselors, I think. And I had no one else to call. And I had other stuff to do. So I said, well, God, you called me to this. I've done all I can do. This is all I know to do. And I've done what I can do, and I'm giving it to you, and I'm trusting that you're gonna give me enough counselors. And I'm not making another call. I ended up with 13. 13 counselors. They called me. Said, I thought about it, I want to do it. And so-and-so has thought about it, and they want to do it. So I didn't get the 12 that I needed. I got what I thought would be enough. I got more than enough. I had an extra, right? And you see, I think when you trust God, He gives you more than what you need. He lets you celebrate in the fullness of those miracles that he performs. When you do what you can do, because that's all you can do, really, if you're truly doing all you can do, and you make yourself available, you say, I just bring these few fish, this snack pack, I bring it to you guys, this is my limited ability, I'm giving it to you, but whatever you can do with that, I'm good. And he turns into something special. He turns into something miraculous. And if you've never done that, try it. Try it. And if it doesn't work out the way you think it, come tell me about it. Because I'm so sure of it that I can tell you that. I know it. I know in my heart that if you trust God with things, he gives you what you need plus some. I know it. 100% confident in it. Not a question in my mind. That's a faith issue, isn't it? Do you really trust him? Or do you just say, oh yeah, I trust him. I trust him. Do you trust him with your life? Do you trust him with your children's lives? Do you trust him with your family's life? Do you trust him with your money? What do you trust him with? Anything. Do you trust him with anything? Or is he just that golden ticket's going to get me to heaven? You got this golden ticket like Willy Wonka. You know, I got my ticket and I'm going to get in. I'm sorry about everybody else, but I got my ticket. Is that what you got? Or you know, how do you treat what he's blessed you with? You see, he's given you some gifts. Everybody's different. Everybody in this building is different. There's not two people in here alike that have the same gifts. Similar maybe, but not the same. Because he made every one of us unique. So what I'm asking you is, you see all these people here who might be hungry for what your talent is? Are you ready to feed them? Are you going to say yes? Steve got up here and blessed us with music this morning. And a testimony. Ronnie blesses us almost weekly up here. With his talent, he brings his talent. Do you bring your talent? Somebody puts the bread and the cup together up here for us every week. That doesn't magically happen. We don't go, boom, and it's there. That's not how that works. Somebody brings their talent, their time, and they give it, right? So what I'm saying is, are you bringing your loaves? Are you bringing your fishes to God? Say, I'm just being available. I'm just going to be available to whatever you bring me or whatever you can use me for. I'm available. Because that's what the little boy was saying. I'm available. And God took a little bit he had that wasn't enough, and he turned it into more than enough. That's a special message, isn't it? No wonder that's in all four Gospels. No wonder that message is all over the place. God can take not enough and turn it into enough, because that's a message everybody needs to hear. That's the message that everybody needs to let sit in their heart, because there's a world out there that's going to tell you every day you're not enough. I'm not good enough to succeed. I'm not smart enough to succeed. I can't